Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, 7 nights a week. Bob Pompeani, joined by Andrew Fillipponi tonight up at 93.7 The Fan. You can call the number, which is 412-575-2600, or you can tweet us at KDPomp at The Pony Express. So, Andrew, first, big items tonight were the college football playoff suffered some major changes after 5 upsets over the weekend. Penn State avoided one with some gutsy play calling at the end. They're still in track right now to host a game. It would be Indiana. It's changed every week. It used to be Alabama at one point, and then there was a thought that it could have been a couple of other teams. Now it's Indiana. Could change again, but most likely that may be the way it's going to go. Do you like their chances there with the winner traveling in a bowl game to Miami?
No, I don't like their chances at all because they don't beat good teams consistently enough under James Franklin. They're actually this year the opposite of what the Steelers are. The Steelers have beaten all the good teams they've played, Atlanta, Denver, the Chargers, the Ravens, everybody with a winning record they beat, and then they've lost to bad teams like the Cowboys, the Browns, and maybe even want to lump the Colts into that pile. Whereas with Penn State, they beat all the mediocre teams they play, and they've gotten beat by the one good team they played on their schedule. Illinois is close, but Illinois really all year has not been in the conversation for the college football playoff. They're a tier below, and unfortunately for Penn State, they're not going to run into those teams in the college football playoff. So whether it's Indiana, Miami, Georgia, Tennessee, SMU, you name it, I would not have any confidence in Penn State winning those games, even if they are staged in the first round in Happy Valley, Bob.
Well, I have a different viewpoint on that. I think Indiana is probably the team I would want to play more than any of them, especially at Happy Valley. And I think Miami is beatable. I've watched enough of their games to know they have a high-power offense, but I think they make enough mistakes. Where Penn State, I think it's a pretty good draw, actually. It's up to them to do something with it now, but it could change again. It may not. Who knows with conference championships, but most likely, the two teams out, I think, are interesting. Number 1 is Clemson, then number 2, Alabama. Alabama's kind of falling apart here, and they got manhandled.
Well, let me ask you a
Oklahoma.
question, Bob.
What's that?
Would you pick Penn State on a neutral field to beat Clemson or Alabama?
Clemson, yes. Alabama, I'm not sure of.
Yes.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Clemson doesn't impress me all that much either. I thought Pitt should have beaten them the other day.
Yeah, Pitt really probably should have beaten them. You're right about that. I just got to see James Franklin beat these upper echelon teams. And I get it. Indiana really, other than Ohio State, hasn't played anybody. And they lost that game 38-15. So maybe in that regard, I should give Penn State a better chance of winning the game. Miami, as far as the ACC goes, they've lost to Georgia Tech. So it's not like they've come out of this unscathed either. So maybe that would be a path for Penn State to win. They would be favored, I would think, in both games against Indiana and Miami. But James Franklin is under 500 against top 25 teams in his career at Penn State, and both of those teams are going to be ranked in the top 15 at the very least, maybe even both in the top 10.
Moving on.
So whenever that happens, I just don't trust him in those matchups.
And you have every reason not to, but I think it still was a path that I think is doable for them. The Steelers today had a press conference course after they practiced on a Tuesday, which is rare, so they moved that back until 2:30. Mike Tomlin spoke. Not much news developing out of that other than it looks like Alex Highsmith is on his way back. Whether or not he's going to play remains to be seen. But Justin Fields was an interesting topic because he used him much more in that game against Cleveland in ways that we had not really seen. Do you think Mike Tomlin, he made it sound like it's a big part of their plan. It may not be the same week to week, but it's a big part. How much is the right part, though, of a dose of Justin Fields?
I want to get rid of it, to be honest with you. I like Justin Fields. I was a fan of his. I never thought he should have been replaced as quarterback. But I don't like juggling. And everybody talks about how you want to get your best players on the field, but then you try to do it, and it breaks up the rhythm and flow of the game, and it leads to stupidity, like that decision on 3rd and 4, which, by the way, Tomlin doubled down on today. Can a coach just for once admit he made a mistake? Is that too much to ask for these guys to say, yeah, I blew it in that decision? He made it sound, Bob, like in the same exact situation, he would do it all over again and he'd have his guy throw it 40 yards downfield, and then even made it sound like both on that play and the Hail Mary, like it was the referee's fault that they didn't call pass interference. Well, here's my take on that. All game, they let guys get away with it. So they called it consistently. It's not like they called ticky-tack calls on the Steelers and let the Browns get away with whatever they wanted. That was the way the game was officiated. So honestly, I don't have that big of a problem with it. And I have a harder time listening to a coach basically use it as a reason for why those plays didn't work. When Russell Wilson was on the field on 3rd and 4th down, he connected with wide receivers. He found guys. He moved the chains, and he should have been out there for that play. And to hear Mike Tomlin tell it today, well, they were playing so close. We want to throw a ball that's better than 50-50 on 3rd down. Bob, I want a passing play that's like 65 or 70% chance of being completed.
Yeah.
Not some wing and a prayer
on 3rd and 4,
in that situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was the wrong call at the wrong time, but I don't even mean the last time I saw pass interference on a Hail Mary. They just do not call it, and they're not going to call it no matter what happens in that end zone. We got to take a break. We have phone lines galore. It's 412-575-2600. Call us with your opinions. We're doing it tonight, both on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. So if you're driving around, give us a call right here, right now. The Penguins won their 8th consecutive road game tonight, 2-0 at Boston. So Rick Tocchet, along with Jim Rutherford, and everyone associated with the Penguins out west, northwest out there, they're doing pretty good. It's going to be a tall task. Let's go to the lines. We got Bill and Carrick, number one Cochrane Go-In Better caller of the night. Hey, Bill, what's up?
Hey, Bob, how you doing? Hi, Flip. Hey, Bob, the Penguins, their season's over. They're going to lose tomorrow. Vancouver won tonight. They'll come in here tomorrow and they'll beat the Penguins. And the Steelers, that's going to be a tough game in Cincy, and I don't think the Steelers are going to win.
Well, okay, Debbie Downer. But you're probably right about tomorrow. I haven't seen anything that makes me think the Penguins are going to rebound, other than this is a travel day after they played in Boston to come in late, and they'll be here tomorrow. Maybe that's something that worked to their advantage. You know, they brought in a new guy, Philip Tomasino. I don't know what he's going to be able to do. They've tried different things, but Andrew, this is spinning your wheels. That's what I look at when I see the Penguins. They're trying different things. None of it works, and they're not willing to totally change the way they're doing it. So where does it lead them?
And you know what I think has happened, too, which is bad? They honestly did have some positive momentum based on the way last season ended, with the way some of these younger guys or new players came out and helped them almost make the playoffs. So I'm talking about an O'Connor, a Puustinen who got waived today, St. Ivany, Shea, Nedeljkovic, Bunting, who came over from Carolina in the Jake Gensel trade. Bob, all those guys have regressed. I mean, I thought many of them were like a rising tide that helped make Sidney Crosby play better. And, you know, there was some juice with younger guys in the lineup and fresh faces. And I think all those guys have gotten considerably worse this year. And that's really the alarming thing, is that there looked like there might be a path for the Penguins to assimilate some of these young guys into their lineup and have it pay dividends. But in fact, the exact opposite has happened this year. Yeah,
especially St. Ivany and Ryan Shea. I thought both those guys are going to be better. They played together last year. And then we've seen different people move up and down. And
Puustinen, I thought, gave them a little bump, Bob. I thought he was good in the last 15 or 20 games last year for them.
Yeah, but
now he could get picked up by any team in the NHL.
Absolutely, and that's the problem. I don't know if it's just a lack of ice time in terms of, that's one thing when you defer. Like, for example, I look at some of their lineups recently. It's a bunch of veterans who dominate the bottom six. You've got to have younger people on there willing to do some different things, and it's a lot of the guys who've been around.
Hayes, Puljujarvi, these guys
these are older guys.
All over the NHL. Yep.
So if you don't have guys from your own system coming up and filling those roles, or going out and get young players, now we'll see what Tomasino can do here. He's only 23 years old.
But it was at the expense of Poulin, which is another one of their guys
who
draft class, has failed miserably. He got sent down as part of this whole deal.
Well, I mean, the bottom line, he's just never going to get it, apparently. I thought this time up he had a pretty good training camp, and I was expecting maybe, like a Drew O'Connor kind of adaptation, and we've never gotten that. In fact, Drew, I expect more from him, too, based on where He was last year at this time. You're right. None of those guys have taken a step forward. Back to the lines. We got Joe in Verona. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Hey, Bob. Hey, Pony. Happy Thanksgiving coming up.
You too.
Thanks, you
Listen,
too.
Pony, I agree with you 110%. I would rather not have the field package, but since they do have it, there's no way you can put Fields out there with 3.5 minutes to go in crunch time after Russell has 21 for 28. It was a real bad decision, and you can put him in the second quarter for a little package or the third, but never crunch time in a blizzard.
That's the key right there.
Passer, and let me tell you, I was thinking that Tomlin was getting a little better. He's back to normal again.
Well, I would say about the blizzard conditions, that was a tough thing for any quarterback to come in and having not that many snaps, not to mention the rhythm, because I think there was some rhythm with Russell Wilson and his offense, and all of a sudden a little distraction there in terms of Fields is in different rhythm altogether. Not to mention he didn't. How do you warm up for that? Andrew, how do you do that? If you're sitting on the sidelines, it's cold, it's blustery, it's snowy, and now you got to go in and play.
And I thought that Tomlin was asked about who makes the decision in those situations and would not say it's me. He brought up sometimes it is me, sometimes it's Arthur Smith. I was surprised by that because usually he takes responsibility for those big-time decisions in critical parts of games, which I thought kind of tried to pass the buck potentially to Arthur Smith. And then the other part of it that I was just so confused by was, Bob, when he brought up their short yardage struggles and said replay assist was partly to blame.
I think what he means
the heck
by
was that
is,
today?
I think what he means by that is sometimes they will signal on the field first down, and then the replay assist moves it back and it's a half a yard short, or vice versa. I do think that is something that has become different and new to the NFL.
That happened in Atlanta. That happened in Atlanta in week 1. I don't think it happened on Thursday night where they thought they had a first down and they found out it was 4th and short and then had to rush a decision. I don't remember that part of it.
No, I don't either, but I'm saying
that.
he can only, to me, he's speaking of if that happens, and I can't remember if that happened or not. But if they signal first down, you have a whole new set of plays, and all of a sudden they reverse it. Now you're caught, in a difficult situation. One more call before we go to break. That's John in Cranberry. Hey, John, what's up?
Hey guys, how you doing today?
Good.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and your families, to both of you.
You too.
I wanted to talk college football. You guys mentioned the college playoff. It's very interesting that with the first year we could see maybe possibly a 3-loss team with either Alabama or Mississippi sneak in. But on the subject of college football, I want to talk about Neil Brown. There's rumblings coming out of Morgantown that Neil Brown may be let go. And so I wanted to first get yours and Andrew's take on if you think that may happen, and if so, who do you see as maybe a possibility to replace him down there?
Jimbo Fisher.
Football team. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, that's. I'd start there and look around. But he's out of work. He's been getting paid. He's from that area.
Yeah, I mean that's
the name I would look at. Whether or not he wants to do that, we'll see.
I think that's the most realistic name. You got to call Cignetti at Indiana because his dad coached there in the 70s and was a big part of that program. Obviously, Kurt's more from this neck of the woods, but he's got roots in West Virginia. And can you pry him away from Indiana, which is a hard place to win, but they did just give him a contract extension. You got to at least make the call and see what he says, yeah.
Well, if they do that, they're going to have to pay a lot more than what he's making, and he just signed it, so the ink isn't even dry on it.
Well, there's a Major League Baseball owner in Arizona, and there's a Major League Baseball owner here in Pittsburgh that have ties to West Virginia, and maybe they could open up the pocketbooks for him, Bob.
Well, I don't know about the latter. We'll take a break on that note. Come back with more. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan.